everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come to our conversation. My name is Ekaterina Sapirova, and I'm a product marketing manager at Adjust. Adjust is the leading mobile attribution provider that helps marketers around the world grow their app. Today, I'm here with Shen. Shen, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here today, Katya.
Would you like to introduce yourself and your company?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Shin. I'm the Vice President for Product and Marketing at Storms. So Storms is a Singapore-based gaming startup invested by three of the largest telco in the Asia region, namely Singtel, AIS, and SK Telecom. Storms owned two key business lines ranging from hyper-casual games development and publishing to offering gaming solutions for businesses, including games licensing and tailored gamification solutions for companies and brands.
Thank you. Today we are going to be talking about user acquisition trends within the hyper-casual gaming vertical. We will also cover a little bit about ad fraud and automation. Shen, without realizing it, we have passed the first months of 2022. What are some of the gaming trends that you have observed so far, and what do these trends mean to marketers?
Sure. So I think, if we look back at 2021, it was a big year for runner games. For instance, what comes instantly to my mind would be Rolex High Heels, Hair Challenge, Supersonic's Bridge Race, as well as Voodoo's Hair Rush. On our end, Storms has experienced tremendous success with our own Alphabet's themed runner game named AZ Run. And I expect runner games to stay popular and trendy for 2022. But with a twist to it, it will appear in a more complex form. So based on my observation, there is an increasing number of runner games with hybrid game mechanics, such as card game or in-game character evolving as the player progresses into higher levels. So to me, this upgraded version of runner games totally makes sense because most runner games actually look the same. There are about 2,000 of such games across the different app stores, which means it's actually very difficult for these games to stand out and for marketeers to attract new gamers to come onto these runner games. So with this hybrid runner game mechanic, players would be drawn to try the game because it's something special and unique and never seen before. So from a performance marketing perspective, these actually translate into higher click-through rate and therefore higher IPM and lower CPI. So with a hybrid runner game mechanic, players would be drawn to try the game. From a performance marketing perspective, these actually translate into higher click-through rate for the ads that we run, hence higher IPM and lower CPI. As you all know, in publishing business, user acquisition is actually very important. So this could be a very effective method for hyper-casual game developers to optimize their install conversion and directly reduce their user acquisition cost. And also, what I've seen is hyper-casual developers and publishers actually finding very creative ways to maximize their game's lifetime value. So far, what we've been talking about are mainly native game formats. But outside of native game formats, developers actually actively converting their games from native into HTML5 formats for distribution across the world's largest social networks, ranging from Facebook to Snapchat, and now we have TikTok instant gaming platform as well. So this totally makes sense given the opportunities to capitalize on all of these big social networks' active user base. Also, the quality of today's instant games can run at almost near app native quality, making them very attractive to users who wish to unwind without leaving their social network environment. Storms, ourselves, we were very successful in converting several native games, such as Half-Brick Studios, Fruit Ninja, and Jetpack Joyride, as well as Storm's AZ Run, into instant games format, and we managed to distribute them across our social instant gaming platforms, as well as emerging markets through our partnerships with KaiOS Technologies, as well as leading super apps in Southeast Asia. And speaking of instant gaming platforms on social networks, that brings me to players' desire for social connections. conventionally, when we talk about social connections, this was more applicable to multiplayer mid-core games. But the pandemic lockdown seems to have accelerated this trend among gamers, even among casual and hyper-casual gamers. Mobile gamers these days, they love to show off their progress. They look forward to competing with friends, be constantly challenged, and want to feel like they are part of a community. So it's no surprise that social features have begun to creep into casual and hyper-casual games. Candy Crush Saga now has guilds, whereas High Heels offers a very competitive environment by displaying gamers' performance on the leaderboard. So all of these elements can greatly boost a game's marketability. So think about it. An engaged gamer would invite other gamers to join the game, which is essentially free user acquisition for the game developer. So it's a win-win of both ends.
That sounds really interesting. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And what are some creative trends and optimizations that hyper-casual game developers and publishers should take note of?
So from Storm's experience, the two things that we looked at would be we tap on big hits for our UA campaign. So we actually explore various creative variations to find, we do a lot of A/B tests to find out which one works the best for our games. Based on our last year's experience, what worked really well was when Squid Game TV series became a major hit. We leveraged on that trend. And what we did was we integrated some of the Squid Game elements into our game advertisements. The results were really good. And the same goes for festive seasons. I would say tap on your target market's local festive seasons to promote your games and encourage users to have fun as they celebrate joyous moments. So just last month, we had Christmas, and we actually reskinned some of our ads to reflect a Christmas background, and that actually helped us with click-through rate as well. Also, focus on elements that appeal to hyper-casuals' largest audience, who are females, right? Again, if I refer back to Rolex hit titles like High Heels, like Hair Challenge, for these two games, the game themes, as well as the accessories available to players, from designer heels to fancy bags to jewelries, cute hair accessories, headbands, these are highly relatable to the female community. So what this actually means to developers and publishers is, we have to continue innovating and bring in more features to stay relevant and keep users playing.
It's very interesting. To some, it might even be surprising that the largest core audience for hyper-casual games are women. Very interesting insight.
Yeah. And speaking of user acquisition, do you feel the ripples from Apple privacy push around IDFA have stabilized?
Well, according to Adjust data, the impact that we saw on user acquisition was never as monumental as it was often predicted to be, and opt-in rates never fell as low as some of the early estimations. In fact, user acquisition and opt-in have been particularly good for hyper-casual verticals. Some early predictions had opt-in averages across all verticals sitting as low as 5%. But what we are seeing, if we even look at the past months, for example, is an industry-wide average of around 18.5%, so way above early estimations. And for the games vertical, that sits at 25%. Now, if we put a lens on hyper-casual, we are seeing titles with opt-in as high as 75%. And there are a few things that drive this pretty impressive number. That doesn't mean, however, that you should set your benchmarks at 75% for your app, but that's just the upper limit that we saw. Something around 30% for 2022 would probably be realistic, and then later on you can think about moving towards the areas of 50% in the future. What we found is that apps with high install rates from advertisement have higher consent rates. So consumers often find hyper-casual games through advertisement, and they are aware of benefits of seeing relevant ads. They are used to finding content this way. Consent rates will also continue to increase over time as as adoption rates rise and users just become more aware of the value of opting in. So the average rate will climb. Another interesting and key user acquisition area for hyper-casual marketers and developers to think about is cross-promotion, which is the vertical. The vertical is uniquely positioned to benefit from this. Hyper-casual gamers watch twice as many ads and download 10 times more apps than the general gaming vertical. If a developer or a studio has more than one app, they can play a role of the publisher and advertiser by leveraging cross-promotion. So if you have a portfolio of apps in your suite or publisher account, you can still deterministically target and measure using the IDFA. You can attribute it for cross-promotion campaigns. Cross-promotion also helps increase opt-in rates in general, so it really is a win-win situation.
Thanks, Katya, for the insights. That was really interesting. So do you have any advice for hyper-casual game developers and marketeers on navigating mobile frauds?
The thing about mobile ad fraud is that there is really only one way to tackle it, regardless of the vertical. Hyper-casual developers are as susceptible to fraud as any other, and so there's no really special advice for the genre, but it all starts with education and understanding on fraud, what fraud is and what it does to your business. Fraud drains your ad budget, it ruins your data, and also limits potential growth. And there are more or less four key types of mobile fraud. So firstly, there is SDK spoofing, which is often, which is when fraudsters replicate how SDK communicates and make up engagements, installs, and events from thin air. When the SDK is compromised, there is really a huge potential for fraudsters. There's also click injection, which is when fraudster injects an engagement when they know that the app is being downloaded. They can then take credit for the install and make you pay for the performance that really isn't there. Next are the famous device farms or click farms. They are basically data centers that host emulated devices with a purpose to create clicks, installs, and engagements at scale. And finally, there is also click spamming, which involves the leveraging of malware on user devices to send clicks to MMPs, which can falsely attribute credit to publishers for installs that were organic actually to begin with, and organic installs are free. So there is a lot of fraud and a lot of fraud types happening, and really there is only one way for marketers and developers to navigate this, to battle this, or even prevent this, is just by investing in good fraud prevention software. Just, for example, has Fraud Prevention Suite, which offers tailored solution for each of these fraud types. And over the past 2 years, we've saved clients billions of unsafe attributions. But Shen, let's move on to a more positive topic. How can hyper-casual game developers and publishers partner with Storms at scale to scale their growth in APAC and beyond?
Well, I would say for a start, we consider ourselves ruthless with data. Data is everything in publishing business. We rely on it to make very important business decisions. So in the business of developing and publishing hyper-casual games, there's non-stop games development, testing, iterating to land on a hit game. So based on initial game concept testing, data helps us decide which games to retain and which projects to kill. Even if we put in a lot of time into developing a certain game, data helps us to be objective. So if there's a need to kill that game, we will, right? And for us, having an understanding of hyper-casual games is a given. We, along the past year, with all the games we've published, we have established a very good sense of benchmarks on what kind of games and marketing metrics make sense to publish a game in a profitable manner. So this provides guidance on what could make or break for us. This kind of knowledge also enables us to move fast in the competitive gaming space. And the other point is, Storms in the past year, we had also doubled down on our team of gaming advisors. We now have a diverse pool of experienced gaming advisors across Asia and Europe. And we're so excited to really partner with game studios around the world to help them scale their games in Asia and beyond. And last but not least, we have also strengthened our foothold in the instant gaming space to allow game developers and publishers to extend their games LTV through our capabilities to convert native gaming apps into HTML5 format without compromising the core gameplay, as well as we do have the vast distribution networks to bring in the relevant monetization. So if anyone is keen to find out more, please look us up on storms.com. We have all the information up there.
Sounds great. Sounds that there is a lot of opportunities with you guys.
Yes. And Katya, so I'm curious, how can mobile marketeers leverage automation to work effectively?
Well, when we first talk about building an app or making an app successful, one of the keywords that really comes to mind is scale or scaling. And the most effective way to scale is to do this by leveraging automation at every possible point. So why is that? Well, it means less busy work for your marketing team, but it also means accurate reporting. Accurate reporting is crucial for any vertical, but in hyper-casual, where profit margins come down to a few percentage points, automation can really be a differentiating factor between a successful title and one that slips between the cracks. In the context of MMPs or attribution providers, automation is also pivotal. At the Just, for example, we aim to make life for marketers and developers simpler, smarter, and more secure. And automation plays a central role in all three of these pillars. Focusing on simplicity, the goal is to centralize as many activities from different channels as possible, thereby minimizing the number of interfaces that marketers have to deal with and manage every day. By merging data from many different sources and allowing marketers to automate campaigns, creatives, and testing, it becomes possible to tie marketing efforts together and improve output or just make better decisions in general. So when you free a team from laborious tasks, for example, shifting through enormous data sets, they are empowered to focus on strategy, troubleshooting, documentation, A/B testing, creative experimentation. So all of this, of course, serve further to grow your app. You can also automatically produce and distribute personalized creatives, which will result in much higher install rates and LTV. Customers expect the user experience that is tailored to their needs for many years already. And automation makes serving that to as many segments as possible way easier. Also, automation means the ability to increase conversion rates at the best possible price by implementing, for example, automatic bidding and machine learning, to optimize testing capabilities by allowing automation to create user segments and generate new audiences, test them fast, and to ultimately reach your marketing goals faster, as budgets can be instantly allocated to channels that perform best and serve your KPIs better. Shen, interesting point that you mentioned before is that hyper-casual largest audience are women. I'm pretty sure it can be surprising to many. I know that female gamers are generally on the rise, and women now make 40 to 45% of the Asian gaming population, according to Google. However, from the workforce perspective, 84% of executive positions within the gaming industry are still held by men. Many women feel that within the gaming industry, gender may be a limiting factor in their career progression. What recommendations would you give to women who want to progress their careers in the industry, or maybe even enter the industry?
Katya, I'm so glad you're asking me this question. I do feel special being here with you already. Thanks for asking this. I think for women, career progression requires self-advocation and taking necessary risks. I would say be bold and go beyond your comfort zone to seize the opportunities ahead of you. There's no lack of issues to be solved in any organization. So put on our thinking hats and try to be problem solvers. I think that's a great step forward. Secondly, also to nurture your friends in the gaming industry in your organization. So this way, when you make friends in the space, you learn, you hear, basically you learn a lot. This way you will grow both as a professional as well as an individual. What about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I agree completely with what you said, Shen. I think relationship building is definitely very important. I would also love to add that as women, we should choose our environment very carefully and pay special attention to the company culture that we are joining. Some questions you can ask yourself: are there women in leadership positions? Is their company embracing diversity? Those are all very important questions to ask when making a new career step or choosing your next company to work for. The environment really matters, I think, because the companies that do embrace diversity will be better off economically than those who do not embrace diversity, simply because consumers themselves now demand changes. And second, because empowering culture is what's going to also enable our growth. So from one side, I would say we should choose our environment really carefully. But once you find that right environment for you, like you said, competence and confidence, of course, very important attributes for success as well. I would also add that, well, working culture does favor and reward certain characteristics more than others. We should stay true to ourselves. We should not mimic anyone's behavior and instead explore our own authentic working and leadership style and grow within it. Otherwise, I feel like you can very quickly burn out. And these changes within our industries, they will not happen overnight, of course, but we can already observe some very positive change, very positive shifts right now. So I'm very hopeful. Yeah.
Well, all I can say is that storms. If I think about it, half of our leadership team and almost half of our staffing are made up of females, and we do have job openings now. So if anyone is interested, we welcome you. We open up. Yeah, again, check out the job listing on our LinkedIn and website. We welcome all females to apply. Thank you.
I'm sure Storms is a great place for women. Well, our talk is coming to an end. Thank you, Shen. This was really, really inspiring and informative conversation. I hope viewers also find a lot of valuable insights. And of course, in case you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Shen or me after this talk. We will be very happy to answer any of your questions. And thank you again for taking your time. We are logging off.
Thank you for having me here. Take care.